But I also noticed too, the difference of when I would now, like when I was younger, I could hear every pitch. Even when I was singing, I could hear my own pitch. Now I can't hear my own pitch when I'm singing. I'm always off pitch.
Oh, really?
And it's all because of the different pitches I can't hear.
But you've been always off pitch. Nobody likes your singing. This could be a bad podcast.
A nice cappuccino. You sure don't want a cappuccino?
No, darling. I got my
Cheers to
tea. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. I got a special guest today that you're really going to love. And the reason I have her on is for many reasons. Not only is she a great friend and extremely funny and wonderful to hang with all the time, but the power that she's going to talk to us about nonverbal, how it speaks louder than verbal. And there's a reason why, and she's a pro at the nonverbal compared to the verbal. And you know, most people think that the louder I speak, the more people hear me. That's not true. Most people hear 7% of what you say, even if they can hear well. But the majority of it, the 93%, is nonverbal. The way you look, the way your place looks, how you behave, that speaks louder than any verbal. But without further ado, we're going to get into that as we have just a nice conversation with a really great friend of mine. She was the first deaf comedian, and I don't know, she did really well, and she's really funny. I don't even know how she practiced her jokes. She can't even hear them. She is, I know, right? What joke did I just say? She is a speaker, a teacher. She's done a lot of work with Tony Robbins or Anthony Robbins, however you prefer to him. She has a great nonprofit called No Limits, where she works with deaf kids and helps them restore their hearing and does so many great things for them. And we're going to get a little bit into her story, but without any further ado, my great friend, our special guest, Kathy Buckley.
I don't think he's my friend.
Right.
He's my family. And I'll tell you one thing, when we met, it was instant. It was just like we met from before, and it was just hasn't changed since. So.
That's because you couldn't hear what I had to say.
Well, actually, I heard you. I just pretended I didn't. Don't you know when people are ignoring you?
Yes,
That's
I do.
That's a nonverbal communication, okay? When they just go,
But you know, Kathy, you weren't, it's not like you knew your whole life you were deaf.
No, I didn't. No, I really didn't know.
Which was interesting, because when you tell that story, I'm like, how does one not know they're deaf? Deaf. I'm dead. My brain is dead. Jesus, is that you?
You should see me on water.
I can run. Jesus is impressed. But no, you have an interesting story, because when you were born, no one did know you were deaf. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
When I was born RH factor, and the doctors told my parents, when you have RH factor, that means both your parents' blood don't match.
Were they cousins?
Apparently. I wonder if I was from Virginia.
Brothers.
No, but we didn't know, they didn't have blood transfusion to me fast enough. You have to get it within 24 hours, or the baby doesn't make it. And so the priest came and gave me my last rites, which is why God made me deaf, so I wouldn't listen to him. And so they finally, I think in the 30-something hour, they finally got blood for me, so they did a complete transfusion, but they told my parents that I would probably be a slow learner, and that I would have challenges. So now that means they instilled a belief for my parents to go, oh, we got a slow thinking kid. And then when I was about 4, I had spinal meningitis. Same thing happened again. And they said they didn't get transfusion to me again, and so I was in the hospital for like a week. And when I was finally out of the hospital, the doctors again told my parents, this child will be a slow learner. So this became my parents' belief system. So when it came to school time, It was like automatic, like, well, we'll put her in public school and see how she does. Well, she's not doing anything. I'm not doing good at all. And then they finally said, all right, we need to put her in a different school. And it was a school for mentally challenged. But back then, and when I say back then, I mean way back then. But back then...
BC?
BC.
Before COVID.
Before COVID. But back then, they didn't... any child that had a challenge was put in this school. Like a boy had a missing arm, which has nothing to do with his mentality, but because he had a broken arm, they considered that disabled, and they put him in the school. So in that school for the mentally challenged, I was diagnosed with retardation, is what they call it back then. Now it's developmentally disabled.
It'll
Who
change
knows
tomorrow.
What it'll be. Tomorrow
Yeah.
it'll be, hey,
You're-
hey, wait a minute. Everybody thinks like this. And then I was in that school for a couple of years. And so I was about 8 years old when they found out there was something not right with my hearing. And they took me to another school where I started learning how to talk.
So from 0 to 8 years,
Yeah.
they had no clue. They just thought you were mentally disabled.
Yeah.
You're kind of describing my story, and I could hear, I think.
Nowadays, I don't think so.
But yeah, if you had anything wrong with you, obviously you were
Yeah.
put in a special disability, or you were put in a mental home or
Yeah.
whatever. But that had to mess with your life for the first, I mean, that's your development years. That had to mess
It
with
is,
you.
but it didn't. You know what? In that school, among this kids that all had different challenges, this is what I wish the world would look at life. There were no judgments among us. We didn't focus on what we couldn't do. We focused on what we could do. Like if you couldn't do something, like if the boy with the one arm, if he couldn't lift something, I help him lift it with my arm. You know, and it wasn't about the words and communication, but what our hearts had to say. So in some way, it was a great way to wake me up to see compassion and empathy, but also, more importantly, I saw no difference. And that was a great way to start my life, as far as I'm concerned. I didn't see the little black girl that was black, or the little boy who couldn't see, other than the fact I kept taking his cane away from him, because I liked that cane. You know, I mean, we played, and it was just what we did. And so I never judged people for differences. So I started out in a world of no judgment. Yeah. And so can you imagine this world if we didn't focus on our differences, but other than learn from each other differences? And I didn't get to, I got to have that.
And isn't it funny how people do treat you different when they think you have some kind of disability, let's call it?
Yeah.
Like for you, you must get people that shout at you all the time.
I know. And I end up reading their cavities, But it's because they're not used to being with somebody who's deaf, or they're not used to being, and then it's like, well, you're not deaf, you can talk. I worked hard for this. I just sound like I'm from New York with a bad attitude.
Yeah, talk to me about that, because you have to start forming words. Listen, I don't even know how did you even think between the, when you were able to think to 8, how can you talk to yourself if you don't even know words?
Pictures.
Pictures.
Everything was, my mind was my eyes. I visualized things, and I would remember things. And the reason why they they thought I could hear was because from a young age, I taught myself how to lip read. If you put this up and you go pen, you see pen. Now you know that lip movement means this. And so, and then if somebody goes like, raises their eyebrows, like, do you want the pen? And then you're like, no, because then they're going to make me write and I'm not doing my homework.
I had that. Wow, you know me. I did that in school. They were like, pen? And I'm like, no, thanks. You can have it.
You can have it.
You can have the paper too.
Just bring on the chocolate.
So you thought in pictures. Mm-hmm. Really weird, because we all think in pictures, but with words to it. Now you're 8 years old and you're being taught how to speak.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I had a teacher, Miss Joan Daly, who was fabulous.
She was probably a New Yorker. That's where you get your New York
I
accent.
think so. I often wondered. She taught me through a balloon. She used to take a balloon, blow it up, tie it in a knot, and place it right in her throat and chest. And then I put my hand on the balloon, I can feel the vibration of her voice. And then I had to imitate it by feeling my own. And we would focus, she would say apple, and I'd be like, ah, abe, and I would drag it out. And she would be like, not even close, Kathy. And we would repeat the same word. Sometimes we'd work on one word for 2 weeks until I feel the vibration articulate it. The problem is S's and SH's and T's and R's, a lot of those letters were very difficult because you really don't see them on the lip. And so they would take a popsicle stick and place my tongue where it's supposed to be. And at one time, because you can't explain to a deaf child how to talk and what you're not hearing because you can't see sounds. I could see that little boy's arms missing.
Right.
But I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just going totally by what I'm watching everybody. So now they used to take a candle and put them in front of my lips so that I could learn how to do SH sounds. But they had to make it visual. So they would light the candle and then they would go, when you're deaf and you haven't spoken for 8 years, your diaphragm shrinks. So you don't breathe heavy. You just shallow breather. So now they're trying to teach me to take air out when I do an SH sound. And so they're going, shh, and they want me to move this flame. And first I'm like, what's the problem? You guys can't blow out a candle? Which is true. Deaf children don't blow out candles because they're
Not
shallow.
even for their birthday?
No.
I never knew that. I
Yeah.
thought that was just a natural thing.
No, because they're shallow breathers. So they don't know to go, shh. They don't know to take air out.
So once you learned that, you started blowing in a lot of ears?
Well, think about Damn, I'm good.
Yeah. No, that's odd because I didn't know that. I thought that's just second nature.
No, because when you don't talk, you don't take air out. Mm-hmm. So when they started making the flame move, they showed me what I'm supposed to do. And it took forever. It took me 2 years to learn how to do an SH sound. That's a long time to learn just 2 letters.
God.
And when I learned it, boy, I got my favorite word out of that.
I wonder what that word SH would be.
Let's just say I didn't think about the I, but I got the T at the end.
Well, speaking of all that shit you went through, you had to work at it. How long did it take you to finally, to somewhat communicate, or you still couldn't because you were still learning, but you still couldn't hear? I mean, when did everything start to take place?
I'm still waiting.
I think a lot of us are.
I think one of the things I did that was brave is when in high school and in school, you try to fit in. So I became what you call a chameleon. However I behaved. A lot of my friends were black. Most of us were being rejected by society over something we had no control over. Mm-hmm. And we had an underlying understanding of that rejection. So for me, I was always trying to be like whoever I was with. So I didn't have an identity. I was always looking for acceptance. See, I got hearing aids about fourth grade, but they weren't made for my loss, and they were painful, and they hurt.
What do you mean painful?
They were loud. They weren't made for my loss. Like today, everything's computerized. Mm-hmm. So they go right to what your needs are. But you gotta also remember, my brain that recognizes sound has atrophied. So when they put all that sound in me, it was so uncomfortable. The ear modes were not made correctly. It had a little chip, a little thing sticking out, and it kept cutting the inside of my ear. But back then, parents did what doctors said. Well, keep them in. No, fighting all the time. So it didn't help me at all. But in 6th grade, my mom saw a boy who needed hearing devices, and she gave him mine. Well, I thought I was no longer being punished.
Wow.
But I always wondered what he did so wrong that he had to wear them. And it was just, so I went through the rest of my school years with no hearing device, no training, no misinterpreting left and right, ending up in the principal office all the time because they said I wasn't listening, which was true, but they didn't take it in consideration for hearing loss. It was never discussed. My family never discussed my hearing loss. The schools didn't, nothing.
So you went through all of high school.
My belief system was the same that my parents got. She's gonna be slow. My belief system is that my brain doesn't work like anybody else. That I'm slow, I'm mentally challenged.
And they did label, I was labeled, I was put in a slow group.
Yeah.
And the kids knew it too. So did you have a lot of kids who didn't understand what you were going through? I mean, because kids can be cruel, let's face it.
I've got to be honest with you, I was really good at hiding things. I mean, I hit 6 foot tall in 6th grade. That's tall. My best friend was Lisa. She was black. We both hit 6 foot tall in 6th grade. And basically, I was following her to figure out where I'm supposed to be at what time. I spent more time trying to be like everybody else that I never got to meet Kathy. Because I just wanted to fit in this world. The unfortunate part, kids do that without any kind of challenges. We're all trying to find that place to fit for acceptance. And so I did all of that just to be a part of this crazy world.
And kids are like that today. And I'll admit, growing up, I was too busy being accepted rather than accepting me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't deaf. According to the teachers, I was deaf, dumb, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I was just that kid as well. And I could hear, I just couldn't understand the English as well, or what they really wanted from me. But there are a lot of learning disadvantages we didn't know about back then. Whether you were deaf, ADHD, dyslexia, all this good stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about it. They just want to label you.
Well, that's what it is nowadays, and I think they label too quick.
Too much.
Too fast. They're not giving a kid. I believe whether you're autism, whether you have ADHD, whatever your disability is, word challenges. I hate that word disability. I'm sorry.
What is the proper word?
There is no proper word. I like to say challenges. I like to think that we're all gifted, okay? And we all have something to contribute. So don't judge me because I don't think like the rest of the class. Don't stop me because I don't work in that way. Maybe I'm really focused on art more so than working on words.
Focused on what?
Art.
Art. Okay.
Art. Like painting and
I
drawing.
got the hearing problem now.
I will sign the rest of the interview, thank you. But we don't let kids be kids.
No, we don't.
If you think about it, you come into this world from the time you're a little baby, and what's the one thing about babies? It does something to your heart. It's just, it's so cute. And what do? You do everything you can to get a response from that infant. To make them smile, whatever it is. So if you think about it, you come in the world for the first year and a half, 2 years of your life, you are totally in control of your needs. You will cry when you want to change, you will cry when you're hungry, you will cry for attention and affection. You know what your needs are, because you cry. But then as you get to be about 2 or 3 years old, now the words start coming into your life. No, stop, don't do, no, that's not good for you. Now you start getting all these negative words in your life, okay? And now they start telling, well, you're going to love the Cleveland Browns. You're going to want this. You're going to be a dancer. You're going to be, instead of just telling them who they're going to be, and you get so caught up, now what are you doing now? All you want is the attention, the acceptance from your families, your loved ones, your peers. Then you start being a teenager. Now your hormones are all over the place. You lose yourself. For the first year and a half, I believe in my heart that babies have first line communication to the other side. That they have that. And then as they get to be more in this world, we drag them into this world. But I'd like to see more people respect children, to trust and see where they want to, what enjoyment they have. Sure, introduce them to everything,
Of course.
but let them pick what they want.
Which kind of wine, which kind of...
Yeah.
No, I still cry. I still pout, like a child.
Yeah.
And I'm always told no. I think that today's world, parents are like that. They want to try to have their kids live the life that they couldn't live, so they force certain things on them.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean... I believe that a baby comes into this world with who they are.
Yeah.
And then we cloud it up.
Yep.
And then they go through life struggling until they can find themselves again. Basically get back to square one.
Yeah.
What do I like? Oh, I love pasta. Why? Because you're Italian? No, because my mother told me so. It's just...
It's so true.
It's just... and so it's funny because then people don't know how to communicate.
They still don't know how to communicate
they
without an iPhone today. They used to know how to communicate.
No, and I talk. I spent my whole life learning how to communicate. Now everybody texts, emails, everything, and I'm like, hello! This is what a phone's for. Hello! Quit taking pictures. Just say hello to me.
Talk to me.
Talk to me.
Listen, what was the first sound you heard, and what did it do for you?
When I really heard the sound for what it really was, the birds.
Birds.
The birds. Actually, the first sound was traffic, because I walked out of the doctor's office. I was 34 when I finally understood that I was not retarded.
How old?
34.
Wow.
34 years old before I finally started having an understanding of how society had limited me because of their ignorance.
Wow.
Because when I got the hearing device, I told them I wasn't going to wear them. I wanted nothing to do with them.
That was at 34 as well?
34.
Was the hearing device. And
Yeah.
you heard your first was traffic, a bird.
I
But
walked
you
outside.
also talked about hearing yourself pass gas for the first time.
Yeah, that scared the crap out of me. Literally.
You didn't know who was behind you.
I'm serious. The first time I heard myself pee scared me.
Wow.
A lot of sounds scared me. Other sounds intrigued me. But that was the thing. I had to train my brain how to recognize sound, like this is knocking. I had to train myself because I didn't know where... I still don't know. I'm not good. Like, if we're sitting here and somebody knocks on the door over here, I think it's coming from out there. So I don't know where the sound's coming from. So I'm like the exorcist, I'm just always, hey, hey.
As long as you're not throwing up, we're fine.
Love pea soup.
Yeah, right. That's weird. You also told the story when you were standing next to a guy. You got to share this one.
No, I
you
can't
passed
do
gas.
that
Come
on
on.
the podcast.
That was so... Yes, we can. This is my podcast. We can do whatever we want on it. Come on, that was so classic. Because, listen, you're hearing this for the first time and you want people to enjoy that sound with you. You didn't do it to be funny.
Nobody enjoys people farting.
Yeah, but you know what? To you, it was like a miracle.
Well,
That it makes noise.
But no, see, I was in the kitchen doing the dishes. And I was doing the dishes and I heard this little... and I dropped everything to listen. I looked around and I thought, do cockroaches make noise? And then I went to the bedroom and then all you can hear is this, you're following me into the bedroom. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So I called my friend Jackie and I said, Jackie, do cockroaches make noise? She goes, if you step on them, they crunch. She says, nah, I don't think I stepped on that many. And then later that night, we went to a party. Don't ever eat beans before you go to a party. That's all I gotta say. I've eaten beans my whole life and I never knew it was a nuisance until then. So I was standing next to this guy and I heard it again. And I was like, see, first I'm in my apartment alone, so nobody can help me here. But now I hear it and there's people around. And this guy is standing there and I hit him and I go, hey, did you hear that sound? And the guy looks at me and he goes, excuse me? I thought, oh, maybe he's deaf. Now leave it to me to sign to a deaf person asking if they heard something. The man walked away from me.
Yeah, you had beans.
My girlfriend Jackie explained to him about my hearing device. So he came back to me and he said, I passed gas. And I looked at Jackie and I said, you what? He goes, you farted. Now in the deaf world, we've never heard farts or pass gas. We've always...
It's not in the verbiage.
No, it's not in the verbiage. So this is the butthole. This is your underwear. And when you fart, it flies. So that's farting in sign language.
It's oh my God, I'm doing it now.
Of all the things I can teach you people, this is what we came up with.
Well, that's the first thing you taught me in sign language is some bad words. I'm like, I was so impressed that I knew that.
Yeah,
That's
you
how
did.
are
How
you?
are you?
And you were like the bullshit sign right away.
Yeah.
I was like, and that was, this. I was like, oh my goodness, it's like speaking a foreign language because the first thing you do learn is bad words.
Yeah, well, see, the good...
It's easier to learn because it has no meaning to you.
No, it doesn't, because it has no picture to it.
Right. I want to see a picture.
Boy, the pictures you hang around with. No, I didn't have any, like when I work with my kids at No Limits, we do plays with words like courage, perseverance, dreams, words you can't see. So we have them act out the words so we can teach them to dream, to teach them to continue on, to teach them to be hopeful, So we have all these, to be strong and be courageous. I want my kids to know who they are now.
And you say your kids, they're not your biological kids. These are the kids.
No, the kids that I...
And we're going to talk more about No Limits
Yeah.
in just a little bit and who these kids are.
Okay.
But I want to go back a little bit more to when you first learned sign language.
When I became a comedian.
What's the first thing you learned?
How are you? What you showed me.
How are you? As a comedian, though, you talk about how to say good morning.
Well,
and
yeah.
You come from an Italian family.
This is good morning. This is good. Then you go good morning, but morning is for sunrise. For the sunrise. But you're a kid. What are you gonna do? I went to our first Italian family reunion. I went up to everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I wasn't feeling a connection with them at all.
I wouldn't think so.
No, my Uncle Frank took me right to my mother and he goes, what the heck is wrong with this kid? She keeps doing this. She's flipping everybody off in the family. And I'm crying, going, I thought I was doing a good thing.
It had to be so tough. But you got into, and I'm always amazed how people can sign as fast as like you think people are speaking.
Oh, they can.
And it is, I don't know, today we probably should have had a signer on while we're doing this interview. And look at, I don't even know what I'm doing. But it looks like I'm flying.
No, but you're flying. You look like a butterfly. Balloon.
But that still is amazing to me because there's words.
But in ASL signing, we don't have these and those, but. We don't have all, what are those words? What would those words be called? Look at both of us.
I know, we're both. I can hear, I'm like, I don't even know what they mean.
We don't like to read.
And today's pronouns, I don't even know. Do they, those, as
But
that.
like if I told you my bicycle is broken in English, because it's my bike broken in English, in ASL, it's bike my broke. So it's backwards.
Oh, I would fit in, I'm dyslexic.
Because the first thing is, what's the topic? The bike. What happened to the topic? It broke. Whose is it? Mine. So it goes backwards. It's not about me first. It's about what am I going to talk about first. And it's all just signing.
So bright, broken mine?
Bike my broke.
Bike my broke. Huh.
And this is sitting, dancing, just simple things. But what happens is that when I came into the hearing world, the English language has too many words that have way too many meanings. One word can mean the thing. And one of the things I learned in coming into the hearing world, people don't listen. They don't listen. If you ever watch some of the talk shows, they're so busy thinking about what they have to say next that they're not listening to what the guest actually has to share with them.
Correct.
And because everything's on a time schedule. So people are not listening to the person. They're hearing their words, but most people, while you're talking to me, I'm already thinking about where you're going with it instead of staying in the moment to hear your heart.
Like we're doing now.
Yeah.
It's in the moment. It's eye to eye. And a lot of people, you're right. They always are thinking about the answer, the joke, or what they're going to say next.
Yeah. How they're going to be
people don't
fun.
care how much you know. They want to know how much you care. And you could show that by
Exactly.
being in the moment.
The face will tell you.
Yeah.
The face will always, the face doesn't lie. The words can lie. The problem is you're not lying. The problem is you don't know how to connect your words with your emotions. People don't know how to express their emotions. When they hurt, they yell and scream or they blame somebody. Instead of just saying, I'm disappointed. I was really hurt. But anger takes over. But you gotta be truthful to what you're feeling. And that's where you connect with people. It drove me crazy. People would talk to me while they were walking away. And I'm like, I hope they're enjoying their conversation. I'm nowhere near you right now, and I'll just go give myself a cup of coffee and go, you know? Yeah. But when you were talking about nonverbal communication, this is nonverbal communication. Just touching somebody. You ever notice how people say, well, how are you? And then what do people say? Fine. I don't know the definition of fine. I don't understand fine. And then you walk on, you pass them up. But if I go up to you and I go, hey, how you doing today? You're gonna, because I got you, you're gonna automatically tell me what you're truly going, well, today was a hard day.
Well, it's heartfelt.
You know?
It's meaningful.
Yeah.
But your nonverbal says it too, because it's not just your word, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
Your whole body and emotion, your nonverbal shows, and you're leaning in.
Yeah.
Which is the nonverbal, is that you care. And you don't have to be deaf or blind to feel that.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. Even when somebody in a crowded place and I got to get through, I would gently touch somebody's shoulders and I'll say, excuse me, and I would look at them. I wouldn't shove them. I wouldn't push them. It's kindness. We forget kindness anymore. Everybody's all about in their own little world and this and that. Look, we live in this world together. It's not about you. I learned that a long time ago. It's not about me. It's about how I can give back, how I can contribute. And I've noticed when I work with people sometimes and they have issues going on in their lives, I would sit back and I would watch their whole body. What are they doing with their hands? Where are their arm placement? Are they open for the communication? Are they holding things in? I watch their facial expression. And then I would put in a couple of words that would say like, are you feeling this? No, really, I'm fine. I'm good, okay, all right. And then you walk away and they're bawling their eyes out. And then come back and I said, oh, so this is what fine looks like? Yeah. Well, isn't that lovely?
Yeah, right.
Do you want to talk?
Don't want to be fine.
But I learned a long time ago, I cannot help anybody unless they ask for it first. I'm not here to fix anything because I don't think anything's broken.
Well, they're going to want to fix it. You can, like the old saying, you can lead the horse to the water, but they got to want to be able to drink.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, some people, they want help, but they don't want help because they get it, but yet they don't do anything to work towards it.
And some people don't, a lot of people, I would say, I'm one of them, and I'll be honest with you, it's hard to trust that somebody wants to help me. You know, somebody could. A lot of people. You got to stop and think. Nowadays, there's so much latchkey kids. Both parents are working these days. They're not getting that hometown with their parents or family, so they're lost, and they don't know how to express their emotions because nobody's listening to them.
Or they don't have the time to listen to them because it's more important to pick up that cell call, which is you're not even on call.
Exactly.
Rather than hearing your own child out or your own family member out. But the nonverbal, ever since I've known you, you've been very acute to that. I mean, you would pick things out that you see, that you knew, and you would be dead on, and you would call people out on it.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that about you, is like, oh, no, I could see that person's being rude. And I'm like, Kathy, don't, and you're like, oh, no, I'm going to go tell them. So
You being nasty.
Get out of here. Do we all have to start plugging our ears so we can be more aware of our surroundings? I mean, what's that like to see the nonverbal? Because yeah, you could hear two people arguing, but they're not arguing, they're having a discussion, but you're in tune to the body language and everything. How do you know?
Well, I think that's the blessing of not speaking for 8 years. Because now you want to be a part of this work. Well, it's just like, if you don't have any arms, you learn how to feed yourself with your feet. You learn how to draw and write with your feet, whatever it may be. When something's lacking in you, you learn to pick up on something else to survive. And I think for me, like I could see when mom and dad were going to get mad, or if somebody's happy and you watch their body language and that was my form of communication for me, to know what's going on around here. Mom chasing me with a wooden spoon, that's pretty much a big clue for me.
Yeah, I would say. I used to tell people my mother was like a ninja with that spoon.
I know.
Like they were nunchucks, right?
And so you learn, and I thank God for my challenges. I thank him because
I don't say challenges, they're gifts. They were a gift to you.
They
and some
are.
People would feel sorry for you. I don't feel sorry for you. I think you were given a gift.
Oh, I believe I have. Because I've tuned into my intuition. I've tuned into what's real in front of me. I don't want to judge you.
Please don't. Because you'll have a lot of judgment.
If I'm judging you, I'll be here all day long.
That's what I was going to say. It's going to be another podcast.
But I don't want to judge people. I want to watch them. I was sitting in an airport and just observed. People are in their phones all the time like this. We are not connecting with our fellow humans. And I really believe that we are all God's children on this earth. And how you behave here is your heaven on earth. This is a playground right now. Look at it as a test. Look at it as an opportunity to grow. But don't look at it, and just because you grew up, like I grew up Catholic. I'm not Catholic anymore.
No, I know that for sure. You're not anything. No. Not any religion. No. You are a spiritual
Christian,
person.
Yeah, a spiritual person. But I don't want somebody to tell me how to believe in my God, for he has proven to me time and time again he's been there for me. And that's where my religion comes from. I could have been the deaf person. If I was deaf, born deaf, when I was born deaf, if they had taught me sign language right away, that would have become my world. But nobody did. And because I didn't have that, I created a world to figure out how I'm going to fit in it. And that gave me the insight to see how people behave.
And that had to be so challenging. But here you are. I mean, listen. And when I mean listen, here's somebody that's telling you the gift of sound and how important it is. And there are so many people who don't understand the gift of speaking, the gift of sound, the bird singing in the tree, whatever that sound may be. It's so beautiful. A baby crying.
Baby laughing. That's my favorite
My phone ring used to be like that, a baby laughing, and people would look around and it brought smiles to people's faces. And that's why I had it as my phone ring, but then they all started thinking it was a little weird. So I had to get rid of that one. But here you are. You got all these challenges. You're trying to overcome them and working hard at it, developing your world, and you turn around and say, I'm going to be a comedian. The first deaf comedian. It's like, where did that come from?
Well, I never thought that.
You never thought it?
No, I didn't know what comedy was.
How did you get into it? You were brilliant. I saw you on TV before I even got to meet you, because I always remember that farting story. But
all the things I can teach people, this is the only thing he heard.
She's known for her farting story. But no, it's just, what sparked that?
I was on Social Security disability. And
that's a comedy show on its own.
No, really, it was. But I went to vocational rehab. I was 34 years old when I discovered my hearing loss through my counselor, who was deaf. she caught on to it. She taught me. And when I got my hearing device, all I ever wanted in my life was to be a nurse. But there was no way I can be a nurse. There's no way I could read those books. There's no way I could comprehend. But I wanted that white lab coat. That was my dream. My name on it. I wanted to be a part of society. I got tired of being on Social Security disability. It was just, it's just a wasteless time of my life at that time. And so I had 3 patients brought in this newspaper article called Stand-Up Comics Take a Stand, and it was to help raise money for children with cerebral palsy. I love kids. And it was a dare. And I have a belief system. If something comes to me 3 times, it's the Holy Spirit say, get on this path. So I'm like, So I know nothing about comedy. I went to the comedy club. I couldn't understand them. They had the microphone in front of their mouth. I couldn't see their lips. And when I did hear them, I took everything literally because I lived in a literal world, you know. I don't know the play on words. One guy would say, hey, what's with the Indian, the dot on their forehead? What's that for, target practice? And I'm like, no, they need that dot. And I would get upset.
That actually means you are here. Did you ever see the road maps?
No,
I'm only kidding. Go ahead.
I'm looking. And so I went ahead and I left that and I went and rented, this is how old I am, videos of Robin Williams and Whoopi Goldberg, all those guys, but they weren't captioned.
They weren't captioned?
The videos were not captioned. They didn't have captioning. And Robin Williams had the fastest lips I've ever seen in my life.
I was going to say, how'd you keep up with him?
Oh my God. And Whoopi Goldberg just, I couldn't lip read her. And I sat in my living room crying, going, why am I trying to do something that's impossible for me? It's not my world. But I kept thinking about the kids. And I was dead, so I had 2 weeks to do this comedy contest. I played around with it, got on stage in front of 250 people.
Not a small crowd, first month.
I didn't have the proper hearing device, so I would play off the vibration of the stage, and I would play off faces that I could see, and if I saw a face I didn't like, I'd move on to another face. And I won that night.
But what did you talk, did you use your hearing loss as your
I
comedy?
came out on stage with this headband with a big hand that came out of my head like this, and I said, you would think with today's technology they could come out with a hearing aid that's just a little less obvious than this.
That's good.
And that was my first joke. And then I went on about hormones, and I mean some of the stuff I talked about, I'm so wonder I even got into the contest. But what they did is they came up to me, and people, you brought the house down. I didn't touch anything. You killed, oh my God, who? You know, I mean, it was like, this is a dangerous career. And then they said you had to go to the semifinals. I didn't know what semifinals meant. And so I ended up placing 4th out of 80 comedians who were in the business from 3 to 10 years, and I was just pussing around for 2 weeks to get the money for the kids.
Wow.
So there's no saying, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
That's for sure.
You know. So.
But when did you get approached to do comedy tours? I mean, that was your thing at first.
Well, but the comedy contest ended up being on national television.
Okay.
The actual contest, the finals. And this woman saw me who was from the Ice House in Pasadena. Her name was Elaine, and she was the first person to put me on the road.
Oh, wow.
And she told me, she goes, bring sheets, bring towels. And I'm like, aren't we a little paranoid? Because the comedy contest, because these comics, my God, did they get the girls in their rooms.
So
and hear me being...
You didn't get any girls in your room?
No. Hear me being Italian. You guys, if you give me money, I'll bring the food, I'll cook it for you, you don't have to spend it. So luckily, one time I was working with Joey Yannetti, who is also Italian, and Joey and I, we would make our meals, because these comics, they make the money and they spend it all the whole week they're there on food.
Wait, some of our audience are barking at us. I know you can't hear, but say that again. Joey was making the food. Joey Bag of Donuts? Who was it?
Joey Yannetti.
Yannetti, okay.
He's Italian.
Joey Nene. I know who you're talking about. Funny.
Do you? I love him.
Yes.
I love him. And so we would make our food together, and I never forget, there was this knife that we had in the condo kitchen. Oh, great, I'm going to get busted now. There was this knife. It was just the perfect knife. And when Joey and I went to the airport, he pulled out the knife. This was before all that other stuff, you know. And so he pulled the knife out, and he goes, here, I got this for you, because I love that knife. And I still have it to this day. This is when I this is like 30 years ago.
Wow.
And so, yeah, he's my buddy.
That's great. And you've worked with a lot of other comedians
Oh,
along
yeah.
the way.
I've worked with Robin Williams. I've worked with, I worked with the old ones, Bob Hope.
You introduced us to Garrett, Rob Garrett.
Oh, Bob. Brad
Garrett, excuse me, from,
yeah.
He had his
From
own comedy club.
Everybody loves Raymond.
He was funny. He was hilarious. You brought us to the club, then you brought us backstage to meet him. He was a nice, sweet.
He's a sweet guy.
Sweet guy, but when he saw you, it was like he saw his sister.
Yeah.
You know, he was just so thrilled to see you, and he was so, inviting and so nice. A lot of people, that's what I love about comics, though, that it's not like I am the superstar, do not touch me. They love people.
Oh, yeah.
And they have great relations. I notice most comics last in their relationship. Speaking of which, are you in a relationship now?
With what?
With a guy or girl or something?
Let me see. No.
Well, it's not like you got to hear what they have to say, but.
I know. Oh, maybe I didn't hear the phone ring.
That's why you didn't get enough dates on that. That's all right. But now you went from comedy. When did Tony Robbins all of a sudden discover you?
Oh, that was funny. Tony didn't discover me. I cussed him out.
Did you?
No, I was working in Oceanside Comedy Club, and I'm one of those people who's anal about the time. And it's 8 o'clock, how come the show's not starting? Tony Robbins is coming with 30 people, it's his birthday. Who the heck is Tony Robbins? I didn't know who he was. I don't know anybody by name. And so 8:15 comes. Come on, we gotta start the show. It's not fair for these people who are already here. 8:20 comes. Tony Robbins comes in with about 30 people for his birthday. And I get on stage, and I'm like big motivational. I knew exactly when I saw him who he was, because I've seen him in infomercials. Yeah. I'm a big motivational speaker. You can't even tell what time it is, blah, blah, blah. And so after the show, I went out to the parking lot, and he was out there talking to a group of people, and I'm like, oh crap, they're gonna beat me up. But I went up to him, and
he's a big guy.
I just told him, I said, I really admire you being a man who cares about people and wanting to help them have the best life possible. I just want him. He goes, I'm doing my first seminar in San Diego. Would you be willing to come down and do comedy with me for my group? But when you're done doing your comedy, can I ask you some quick questions about your disability? I said, what, being flat-chested? He's like, no, you're hearing loss. He said, no, you're hearing loss. I says, oh, okay, yeah, sure. So I go to do the gig. I did a half-hour stand-up. So Tony's in the back of the room, and there's like about 2,000 people in the room. I said, do you want to come up and ask me questions, or should I continue? He told me to go ahead and continue. He didn't know my story. And so when I was done, Tony came on the stage and he was speechless. I, Kathy Buckley, made Tony Robbins speechless.
Which is a hard task, because he's always got something to say. That's amazing.
I know, it was awesome. And so ever since then, I've been doing life mastery for him for almost 30 years.
And you're still working with Tony.
Oh, yeah.
And the other great thing you did is you brought me to Tony's premiere of...
I'm Not Your Guru.
I'm Not Your Guru. And you actually introduced us to Tony. Once again, was a great guy, very humble, and we got to see that before it was launched on TV.
Yeah.
You've opened my eyes, and I've opened your ears.
So Helen Keller is no longer here.
So, but you and I did connect. I mean, and it's not because of the friends. I knew nothing of you except that you were a deaf comedian, which I love. Comics.
Yeah.
When we first met, it was like love right there.
Oh, yeah.
I think we were attracted not to what we had to say, but just to, we felt each other's heart. That's where the nonverbal came in.
That's where it came in.
Yeah, we just looked at each other.
We didn't know each other's struggles.
Yeah.
And then when we spoke about our struggles, there was so much similarities. You know, everybody has, look, I wouldn't want a life without struggles because it builds character. Yeah. It builds character, it gives you strength, it gives you an opportunity to find out what you're made of. And that, so when we learned about the commonness, we had so much in common, and it was just like finding my long-lost brother.
Yeah.
So
Hey, we did. We just connected like we knew each other for years.
Yeah.
And I love that, even though I didn't know what the hell you were saying and you couldn't hear what the hell I was saying. I think that's why it worked out so well. But we knew we loved each other. I know, exactly. You know, anyway. For her to put up with me or anybody is great. No. But now you take these, what people always seem to call disabilities, and I call them gifts, and you take this gift, and I think you were blessed with it for this reason. Most of all, not to make people laugh, which is wonderful, not because you can work with Tony Robbins, and I'm starting to sound like Tony Robbins, but here's the thing, it's what you did with that. We were talking about no limits, and the gifts that you were given. Now, some people are going to be offended by some of your jokes and the fact that you're picking on yourself because you're deaf. Turn off, okay? Because this is reality, you know? And today, you know, I had a speaker come in and he was talking about Stubby, the guy with no arms, no legs.
Oh, okay.
And he said to the audience, he wants to be called Stubby. Yeah. That was his military name.
Yeah.
And he enjoyed calling that. And the person in the audience was arguing with the speakers, that's how do you say, insensitive?
Insensitive.
You can speak better than I can. That's insensitive. How could you call him Stubby? He's like, but that's what he wants to be called. And she was just going on, she was very young, about the fact that he was referring to him as Stubby. Now, some people are going to be offended to the fact that you're making jokes about your hearing loss. But you look at life a lot differently. And you took that gift and you created no limits. What do you do with these deaf kids?
Well, let me just tell you, I've had a woman come up to me and said, you shouldn't make fun of deaf people. I'm one of them. You know, but it's all in how people are listening. She wasn't hearing what I was doing. She was too busy judging that she couldn't enjoy the show. So, but when No Limits came around, a friend of mine, her name is Michelle Chrissy. She's a deaf educator. She's a doctor, Michelle Chrissy. And we started out as a national theater group because deaf children have no place to go for camp. And the theater...
Well, they didn't hear about it.
No, they didn't hear about it.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to hit him.
I'm sorry.
Close your eyes. I'm going to beat the crap out of him.
This is the relationship we have. I always have, I don't know, it's my Tourette's. Fuck you. All right, no, go ahead. I didn't swear.
No, but the deaf children had no place to go to interact with other deaf children. Most deaf kids that have cochlear implants and digital hearing aids.
Stop.
I'm not talking about deaf ASL kids. I'm talking about deaf kids with spoken language.
Wait, you said coconut hearing.
Cochlear implant.
What is that?
That's a surgery that they actually replace your cochlear with another.
Oh, cochlear.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying coconut.
Yeah, okay. Coconut.
That's why it threw me off.
They replace your head with a coconut.
Am I?
Wow, I can hear. Oh yeah, where's the monkey?
I can hear the ocean.
So it's the newest device, and so it enables deaf children to have spoken language. Now the problem that we have with it is the government will not give us funding because they think because they have hearing devices, they're fixed. What they don't know is that when they take the device out, they are completely deaf, no sound. So it's funny, it's hard because deaf people want you to sign. Hearing families have deaf children, they've never met a deaf child or person in their life. They get scared because they don't know what the resources are. And we work with low-income families because these kids, we get them at 5 years old, they don't even know their names. So we have to teach them the language and work with them. And so, you know, if you're 5 years old, a hearing child would have a vocabulary of 5,000 words. A deaf child, none.
Not even their name. I didn't
Not
even
even
think
their
about
name.
that. They don't, how do they even know what to call?
They don't. So and it's really cool because when they do start speaking, and when they get them to start talking, my favorite part is not that they know their name, is that they can say mom or dad and I love you. And when the parents finally had the connection, a communication connection, a verbal connection, they just break down.
And you do that with these kids?
Not just me, it's the whole team.
But you and your team, but you started No Limits.
No, Michelle started No Limits.
Okay, so she started, you jump in on that bandwagon.
Yeah.
And so what's the first thing you do with them? I mean, because they come in deaf, or do they come in with a hearing aid, or you help them get
They
the
come
hearing?
in, no, sometimes, this is the sad part. Insurance company won't pay for hearing devices for these kids. They won't pay the $6,000 for hearing devices, but they will pay $100,000 for that cochlear implant because it's surgery.
Okay.
This is bizarre to me.
Yeah.
They consider hearing devices cosmetic. Do I look beautiful? Thank you.
Yeah, look at my new ear.
I know.
Yeah.
It's sad. The ignorance is still out there. And the bigger ignorance is that the deaf speak. And that's, I am. I'm spoken language. And that's how I got to stay in this world. And my kids, they have spoken language, but I have to admit, when they get to be teenagers, they get confused. Where do I belong? Do I belong in the deaf world? Do I belong in the hearing world? But most of them, they end up picking up sign language when they get older, because if you teach them sign when they're young and teaching them voice, it's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. So we get their voice and they can pick up sign later. It depends. I never, ever give an advice to a parent that says, well, he should this or he should that. Here's your options. Research it. Think what you think would be best for you and your family. I know what it was like to sit at a dinner table and have no connection with my family members. And then I found out when I got older, I go, Mark, what did you guys talk about at the dinner table? He goes, we didn't, we just ate.
What's
I didn't miss anything. I didn't miss a thing.
Which is rare. You come from an Italian family.
I
They're
know.
always talking and screaming.
I know.
I'm surprised they didn't cure your hearing at that table. But you take these kids, and I've met a lot of you kids. We help with your organization
Yes, you
every
do.
year. And I encourage you guys, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a link to No Limits where you can, if you'd like, to donate and help. It's so sad because the government will spend money on the stupidest things, but they won't help people helping other people in need, which is totally sad. So if you can go to the link on the bottom of the screen and you'd like to give to No Limits, you make a big difference for these kids. I met like Johnny.
Yeah, you love John.
I
John loved
Johnny.
you.
Yeah, I love Johnny. And Johnny was on Glee.
Yes, he was. He was on
He
Glee.
played a special role. What was that?
He was the lead of singer, actually. Can't sing, but he was the lead singer. And they taught the whole Glee class how to sign. What was the song?
Imagine.
Imagine, yes.
From
John Lennon.
John Lennon. Imagine
And
all
that- yeah.
the people. And every time he does that, I end up bawling my eyes out because it's beautiful. It's like, I hate to compare this, but it's like watching a Hawaiian hula dancer express the words.
It is.
It was so
Because you're using your body, and your hand,
Beautiful.
and your face, all of it. And John's such a good-looking boy, anyway.
Yeah.
And then John and I did The Simpsons.
Well, did you really?
Yeah.
How?
I played I think it was a 9-year-old girl in the theater, and John was the lead in that also.
Oh, wow. I
So it
didn't
was
know
really
that.
cool. Yeah, we did The Simpsons together.
That
It
is
was
so
a
cool.
voiceover, and I never did voiceover, which is really weird for somebody who doesn't hear the voice. And I'm saying, okay, what do you want me to do? And I did. They said we'd take about a half an hour for your lines. I go, okay. So in 5 minutes, I was done. And I said, don't you want me to do it again? And he goes, no, it's perfect. He said, we wanted you to use a deaf voice. I go, that's mine.
That's so crazy. And you know, I loved, because John was in No Limits. with you.
He was our first.
He was your
He was our
first.
first baby.
And I remember when he got his hearing implants.
Yes.
Oh my God, he ran up to me and could not stop on the beautiful things he was hearing. I couldn't get him to stop talking. That's how what you bring.
Yeah. He got the cochlear implants when he was in his 20s or
he's still
mid-20s or something when he got his, and he was just, Kathy, just all these things he was saying. One of my kids goes, listen to the squirrel. And I'm like, squirrels don't make noise. He goes, no, they make noise. I go, honey, they don't make noise. Now stop it. And then I was alone one day, and I'm like, what is that noise? And somebody says, it's a squirrel. And I'm going, oh, God, I got to go apologize to a 5-year-old.
It is, because, see, they're more in tune to hearing what we already take for granted. Even the wind blowing through the trees.
Your brain knows how to eliminate sounds. Mine doesn't. I take like music, the lyrics and the music becomes one sound. I can't separate the words and the music to know what the lyrics of the song is. But people who have hearing, they know how to take out the background noise and focus on what's here. Their brain knows how to do that. My kids, we teach them to listen. And in teaching them to listen, they now are learning to use that method of letting go of sounds that's not necessary in that moment. But there is so many incredible sounds, and it's the same thing with our eyes.
Too many people today have to let go of some voices and sounds of what they're hearing today. They're trying to send the wrong message.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's you did a beautiful rendition of "Somewhere Over the Rainbow."
Oh.
And that's what inspires people, is because we're like, that was right on pitch. Want to give us a little bit of it?
Oh, Jesus.
Come on. I know I put you on the spot.
You guys really want to
But
hear
listen. Yes, they do. You do. Right in. Go ahead.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
I could hear, and I could, somewhere, people would be like throwing stuff at me right now.
Oh, well, give me some.
In your cup right there.
Two.
But that was beautiful. It's like, again, people make so many excuses about being the victim, the victor. And you've never said, I am the victim, because you went through not just hearing loss. Can you share, and would you like to share?
Yeah, I got no problem.
Hey, listen, if we have to make this a 2-part series, I will, because her story, some people think, oh, it's just hearing loss, or this or that. There's a story behind everybody that can help other people in things and struggles that they go through, and how to overcome that and not be the victim. Because when we talk about death, when I came out of the coma in 97, I never enjoyed such beauty and such sound.
You see things differently, don't you?
Totally. I never saw the flowers. I never saw the trees. I never heard.
And what did you gain? What did you gain?
A medical bill that was unbelievably high. No, but
gratitude.
I gained so much gratitude. And people don't even know that word anymore.
No, gratitude.
And your kids in No Limits get so much gratitude. I love the gratitude we get in helping you help those kids.
Thank you.
You get so much gratitude in helping those kids.
Oh,
but
definitely.
You're right. But we were just talking about some of the struggles that you went through. Let's go back a little bit in time.
I can make it short.
No, you don't have to make it short. Let's go back a little in time, because of your hearing loss, you couldn't tell people things.
No.
You couldn't share things, and you were being taken advantage of.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit about that?
I was being molested in my own home by my dad because I had no communication with anybody. I was never taught to go to anybody for anything. So it became my secret, but it wasn't really a secret, because I don't know if you know that when something traumatic happens to a child, they go through a blackout. they actually, somehow or another, you put it on the shelf. And you just go to struggle through the day, you know. But you don't realize that while it's up on the shelf, it's eating away at your physical being. It's in your muscles. Even though it's not up here right now, but you know there's something not right. Like if somebody was to drink beer. My dad drank a lot of beer. And whenever I see anybody drink beer, it's automatically taboo, you know. Or chewing the inside of their mouth. If I see somebody doing that, I get like
anything. Is that the bad anchor that you have from
okay. You know, you just regret it, you know. And so I went through that in my household. And then when I finally graduated from high school with a 1-point average.
Got me beat.
By what, a quarter of a point?
Somewhere around there, yeah. I don't even know how we got out. Yeah.
I don't know how we got to be who we are.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really believe that what you went through and what I went through was God's way of just shaking us to wake us up to say thank you for this life. Mm-hmm. It's such a blessing to have it. And I don't want people to go through a huge challenge to start appreciating the gift that's within them. This thing right here is a gift. It's called life. You got to appreciate this. It's not for you to compare with somebody else. It's not for you to criticize. It's for you to start loving this now, respecting it, honoring it. And so when I went through that with my dad, and I finally got a job, and one day it was my day off work, and I ended up going to the beach to get me some color, because I'm so white I could do a commercial for Clorox. And so I went into the beach and laying on the beach, sunbathing, the lifeguard Jeep ran me over. Ran over my face, stomach, chest, side, and back. Laid me up for 5 years.
But he didn't run over you just once.
No, because when it ran over me, somebody over here was trying to tell the lifeguard what she did. Of course, it was a woman driver. And she came back to find out what the guy was saying, so she got me. Again, yeah.
And first of all, let's back up a little bit. You dealt with being abused inside the home.
Yes.
What would they call that? What was happening to you?
Molested.
Thank you. I can't even think that way, but I get that. You move on from that. How before you can even go lay on a beach to get some sun, you're dealing with this here. How did you deal with that? And I'm going to get to your Jeep accident in just a moment, but people probably backing up going, wait a minute, you just said you were molested by your own dad. How did you deal with that? How do
I deal with it now?
No, not now.
Back then, my dad.
You put it on the shelf, is what you were saying.
Well, everything's on the shelf.
Okay, so you were in denial.
When Mom came home from work, I couldn't go to my mom, mainly because I don't remember, because it's on the shelf. You just block it out. So
you just went on with life.
I kept going on with life.
So nobody knew yet.
All I knew is that, in fact, when I was doing my first book, I was looking through I went and got all my school reports, and it said when I was 14, it said, Kathy's really pleasant to be around with, but when her dad comes to pick her up, she's quiet, she doesn't move, she's fearful, and it's all written on paper. Now, the sad thing that gets me, if that's written on paper, why didn't anybody ever think of what was going on to put a stop to it? So while I was going through life, I just avoid him a lot. In fact, one time we had family over and he went to pick me up to throw me in the pool. We had a barbecue. I literally beat him up. I didn't do it consciously.
You were defending you. You got scared.
It was just something, don't touch me in public, kind of thing. And so, and nobody caught on. And then when the memory did come back, because I had cancer, and that's when the memory came.
Okay. Wait, cancer. Wait. Jeep, and then cancer, because we're going to go through all these. Before you get to the cancer part, because I know you got, once again, a plethora of things, I want to go in this order. So you put it on the shelf.
Okay, it's on the shelf.
Now you go to the beach. You're laying out in the sun trying to get some color because Casper was like mocking you.
I got tire tracks. I could have done a commercial for Goodyear.
Oh my God. And yeah, when they ran over you, but people think maybe you squashed down in the sand. What? You broke bones, ribs?
My nose, because it went over my face. The unfortunate part was that when it went over me, this is the bizarre thing. If anything ever happened to you, it's like that, right? But this time it was like time just went in slow motion. And I remember saying, I'm under a vehicle. And I saw the rear views and I took my arm to protect. I kept thinking if I protect my head this time. The unfortunate part was when the Jeep came back, it took my elbow and my upper body was facing pretty much south and my lower body was facing north.
Because you didn't know they were going to back up again.
No, I had no idea.
She didn't even realize she ran over something.
Yeah, no.
Or someone.
Someone.
Something. You were a thing then.
And then I always tell people I used to be a 44D, but that was a lie.
That was before the tires went on. You got two flats.
Not too flats.
So now, did it break your legs? Did it? You're in the hospital.
No, it was all internal bleeding. All internal organs got smashed, ribs were broken, lower back was damaged, neurological damage, all that kind of stuff. So it was.
How long did it take you to recover?
Well, it was 5 years I was laid up, but I was intensive care for only 13 days, and then I was in a regular hospital room.
Okay. So, and then you recover, but only to find out you now have cancer.
Yeah.
What kind of cancer?
Cervical, female. Yeah.
Hey, I can get cervical too these days.
You can. You can
Yeah,
get
it's a
anything
new world.
you damn well please.
But this is, I mean, what stage? How did you find out?
Well, I went in, what did I go in for? I was going in for some pain, and so I had my checkup, and they did a pap smear, and they found out that it was irregular. Then they had to go in, and the sad part is, I'm deaf. I don't know what's going on. You know, you're sitting there with the doctor's head between your sheet. And they knew,
Good for you. You got a doctor. You landed a doctor now.
And the nurse would stand over here and interpret everything. And so it was really weird because he would have to push the sheet down so I could see his face. So now you got his head going, now.
I'm sorry, I just got the image of you holding like that. Sorry. We can laugh about it now, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. But back then it was good for me so I could at least see his lips while he's looking at my lips.
No comment. She said it. I didn't. He was reading your lips while you were reading his. I know you. You know me.
So he was trying to, he didn't use the word cancer, he used a different word, but it meant cancer. And at the time, I didn't even know what cancer was. So they took this long thing with these claws, and they would go in and they take skin out 14 times. And I was crying and crying because it was all for the biopsy. The problem with this cancer thing is you can't see it. You can't feel it. It's not like a cut and you go, oh, I put a Band-Aid on it. Let me see. Oh, it's healing.
You're talking about you personally.
Yeah, me
personally. You didn't even know it. You
no.
Yeah.
So
no pain, no
you have
nothing.
You have to believe what people tell you, right?
Yeah.
So, and I've always been alone. I've never had family support, so I'm not understanding what's going on. So anyway, when he did that, so now you're bleeding for a few weeks. Now you gotta wait 6 months for the results and stuff like that. And then to find out they got it all through the biopsies, whatever have you, and the treatment that they did. And then 6 months later, they find out they didn't get it all, and you got to go through the procedure. So it goes on for a couple of years. And I had no idea what I was dealing with, because nobody really just sat down and looked at me so I could lip read them and say, well, this is what cancer can do. This is, you know. So in my mind, my first thought, I'm dying.
Of course.
My second thought is, look, I went through the deafness, I went through molestation, I got run over by a Jeep, and now you say I'm gonna die? And that's when I got mad. I've never expressed anger. And I said, that's it. I'm tired of the poking, the probing. I'm tired of people telling me who I have to be, who I can't be, what I can do, what I can't do. And I just changed my diet, I changed my attitude, and I got on a plane and I confronted my father because all the memories came back.
I was going to get to that. Your dad, the Jeep, the cancer, and...
What more do you want?
I know. I don't, nothing else. I hope never think anything. But now you're going to confront your dad.
Yeah.
And I was going to get to that because you did something unthinkable that most people wouldn't even dare to do.
Confront him.
You confronted him. But when you confronted him, what else did you do?
Well, when I confronted him the first time, see, this is not like you walk in and say, okay, look, this happened. Are you sorry? You know, it's not a conversation. This is something that's been brewing in me that I didn't even know that was brewing in me, okay? So the first time I confronted him, he denied it. And I thought, am I crazy? Because I'm not comfortable with men, you know. I don't want to date. No, don't touch me, you know. Why? Why do I feel like that when everybody else is like, let's go get laid? And I'm just like, no, don't touch me! You know, it was just a whole big... I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So when I confronted my dad and he said, no, I didn't. No, I don't. Every Saturday morning when Mom went to work, no, I don't remember anything like that. And I went upstairs and there was a couch and it was his house. You know when you cry, you do that. You know how you do that?
You gasping for air, yeah, the dramatic.
But I didn't do that. Water poured out of my head with no physical element to the tears. I've never even knew that was humanly possible. And then my dad came up and he got down on his knees next to the couch. My dad was very young looking. I literally watched his face age in front of me as he looked up at me and said, my God, what have I done to you? Don't hate all men, just hate me. And I'm like, okay. But I'm not one to hate. That's not my nature. Do you know what I did? It's okay. I didn't take care of Kathy. I took care of him. It's okay. I don't think our conversation lasted.
Did you mean that it's okay? Or I mean, were you still the victim at that time, or were you...
I was still the victim.
You were still the victim.
I was victimizing myself. At that time, he admitted it, and I don't know if maybe at that time that's all I wanted to know, that it happened. But I left and went back to California.
No closure?
I didn't know that I was supposed to have a closure. I didn't know how this works. Went on with my life. My stepsister calls me up and says, Mom and Dad are getting divorced. I'm like, okay, I don't care. And she goes, I'm going to go stay with Dad for a few days. No, don't. She goes, why did you say that? And then she shared some of her stories. I go, that's it. I'm flying back home. We're going to confront him together. Like I said, everything kept going up on the shelf. Now I took it back down. I'm taking it with me. Gina didn't want anything to do with it. So I confronted Dad. So I opened it up again. Goes, what do you want from me? What do you want? I don't know, maybe if you learn to be happy, I can be happy. And that's what I wanted, was to be happy. I thought somebody had to set the example of what happiness was. And he goes, well, what do you want? And I kept saying the same thing over and over. And when I left, do you ever get somewhere and it feels like somebody smacks you upside the head and it's like he asks you, what do you want? I want to be happy. I want to know what happiness is. And it's like, well, Kathy, the truth of the matter is, what he did to you was years ago. What you're doing is holding on to this story, and it's causing you grief. Because what he did took place then, not now. So I went on with my life, started doing comedy, phone rings, watching myself on TV. You know how weird it is to lip read yourself? I said, girl, you got to do some more movement with those lips. The phone rings. Hello. It's Dad. Oh, hi, Dad. How you doing? I'm in an institution. I tried to commit suicide. The doctor says I have to call people and ask for forgiveness. I didn't know what forgiveness was. But because he asked for it, it's like that alien that lived in my pit of my gut, who had grown his own arms and legs over the years, started climbing up and out of me and it just yelled out, "No!" And I scared myself. And I realized in that fear, there's more to this than keep putting it up on the shelf. I said, "Look at Dad, I gotta be in Chicago. When I'm done in Chicago, I'll come to Cleveland. But when I get there, you don't hug me, look at me, touch me, nothing." And that was the first time I took care of Kathy. I had a voice for her. But there was no way I can go back to Cleveland. I needed help. I'm not doing this every few years. I want to live a life. So I went to a group therapy, 13 women in a half circle. They started telling their stories, and I have to tell you, their stories were horrendous. Came my turn, and they said, "You have to tell your story in detail." And that was the first time I told my story in detail. It was like I was taking this little alien and just spewing them out piece by piece, you know?
Now, is that a sense of being free?
It felt fabulous.
That's the alien coming out, being free.
The ugliness that had been living inside of me. It's like all of a sudden everything came down off the shelf, and it felt fabulous. It was a safe place for me to be true to who I am. So I went ahead and I was excited because 2 days later there's another meeting. This was my naive mind. I thought, I tell you my details, you're going to tell me how to handle the situation in Ohio. When I got there, all 13 women are telling their stories again. I'm uncomfortable. You know, when you tell your story one too many times, you start elaborating. And I'm sure these women were doing that. And it came my turn. And I said, "What are we doing?" Because I'm looking for a solution. She goes, "Well, we're telling your story until you get it all out." I go, "I did 2 days ago. Who's deaf here, you or me?" So when I had that coffee and tea, and I'm sitting and I'm going, "How long you been coming here? 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? You've been coming here twice a week telling your story for 5 years? As far as I'm concerned, you are molesting, raping, and abusing yourself. You are so stuck in a story that you don't even know what's presented to you right here and now, yet alone plan for a future." That was my wake-up call. I got on the plane, I canceled my job in Chicago, any job I ever canceled, went directly to that doctor's office where my dad was. The doctor was sitting here, there was a table, my dad. I went right up to my dad. "What the hell were you thinking? Why did you say the things you said when you were touching me? Who the hell?" And the doctor's like, "You can't yell at him. He's suicidal." I go, "That's okay, I'll kill him and save him the trouble."
He didn't do it right the first time.
I know. So my dad looked at the doctor and he said, "Let her have at me." And I thought, as I looked at him when he said that, I says, I remember a gift called choice that was given to me. And I thought to myself, how many times does this story have to have life? How many times does this story have to hurt me? How many times do I have to play it over and over again? And I said, "Dad, stand up. I'm going to give you a hug, and from here on out, you and I no longer have that story. I made a choice right then and there." And I hugged him. And I said, "Now, if you want a relationship on my terms, you may hug me back." And he did. And we had a beautiful relationship for over 30 years.
Wow.
A few years ago, he ended up with dementia. I flew home every week, every month to help take care of him. I slept in the same bed with him for 3 nights in a row until he took his last breath. And when he did, I looked to the heavens and I said, "Thank you." Not because he died, because he showed me what happiness was. Happiness is to forgive yesteryears. If you don't let the past die, it won't let you live. So I made a promise to myself. I now know that I didn't forgive my dad. I didn't know I even forgave him. I didn't know what forgiveness was. But forgiveness is to be able to love unconditionally to the point where you can let it go. You don't have to forget. It'll always be a part of your story and your upbringing. But because that night I realized there are a lot of people who have hurt me in my life. And so I took a big poster and I wrote down all the names of the people who hurt me, whether it's verbally, physically, whatever it was. And whose name's on the top? Mine. Because I'm responsible as to how I'm going to react to how somebody says or do to me. It's up to me.
Your name is first?
My name is first. I have to forgive me first. I have to
For what though? People would say you were the victim. What are you forgiving yourself about?
Because I used to think that because I was deaf, I was too stupid to, not to say no or not to understand. But he was my dad. I didn't understand what was going on. So I used to blame myself for certain things. And there's certain things that I've done things to myself. Because trying to commit suicide, I have to forgive myself for that. Because how could I not love the gift that God created in me? So I wrote all those names down. I wrote down next to the names what they did or said to me. What did I write after that? How did it make me feel? And that's when I was losing it, because I had to go through all that pain again. What did I write after that? How can it stop me from moving forward in life? How is it stopping me? Like I couldn't be in a relationship because I felt like I wasn't good enough, I wasn't pretty enough, because that was my belief system from what I was taught from my dad. And teachers that have limited me, that didn't help me move forward, all those things. So what did I write after? What did I learn from it? Because everything in life is an experience. Everything, whether it's an issue, a situation, or a circumstance, it is an experience. It is a in that moment thing. You don't have to take this moment thing and take it with you for the rest of your life. If it's not going to serve your purpose, you don't need to. So what did I learn from them? And then at the last one, I put gratitude. Gratitude for having the insight, the foresight, to be able to see that everything was an experience, a story. Gratitude, my dad showed me what happiness was. In the most bizarre way.
I would say very bizarre way, yeah.
But
I get you.
When he died, I understood forgiveness. To love this man unconditionally for 30 years. Yeah, I took care of him, all of that. And people say, how could you do that after what he did to you? I said, he's still a child of God. And as long as he's God's child, I will respect him out of my Father in heaven. And to be with him in his last breath, it's just, what a gift I gave me. To give me, to be able to, he wanted to come to California. I didn't want him in my house. But I had to get him in my house because I had to get over all my fears. And it worked out. People don't look out for themselves in the right way. You can't be angry forever. And if you are, you will be.
And a lot of people say, this is the one thing that stuck to me, is I forgave myself. So many people don't know how. They think they have to forgive other people, but it's actually you who have to set yourself free.
Yes.
In order to love and forgive. You don't have to forget, like you said.
Yeah.
You don't have to have dinner with them, but you have to, or you carry, if you don't forgive, you carry that burden in your heart. But a lot of people are like, Kathy, that's traumatic. How could you ever forgive? But I think it was the strength of God. And knowing that he was a God's child, right or wrong, if you didn't forgive you and you didn't forgive him, you couldn't move forward.
No, because if I don't forgive me, the thing is, in my eyes, God created me. He gave me this gift called life. Yes, I came from my mother's vagina, but this
is that where that comes from?
Yes.
You've been lying to me all this time, Mom.
But now, forgiving myself was respecting my Father in heaven, my God. Forgiving myself was saying, thank you for the gifts you gave me. I'm sorry I allowed this person to make me think that this was not worthy, that this was not pretty enough, that this was not good enough. I'm sorry I gave my power over to the ignorance and stupidity of somebody else's actions. I'm sorry I always said I'm not smart enough because the teachers made me believe I was retarded or that I wasn't going to be educational or whatever. I'm sorry I believed all of this. But I was a young mind not knowing. And so I learned to forgive the ignorance that lived within me to allow my power to be given to someone else. So now I get to love, honor, and respect myself, and I'm so grateful for the gift that I get to live now because I get to live with love.
Yeah, and there's so many people out there. I've learned that was the secret of moving forward is maybe I in some people's eyes I didn't suffer enough.
Yeah.
But I did enough to have to forgive me first.
Yeah.
I used to be mad at the other people, the bullies, the abusers of not maybe sexually, but there's they come in all different forms, and a lot of people say, "Well, I forgive," but they didn't because they still actually live this life of scarcity, and or they focus it on somebody else's problems, and try to bring that to light because they haven't brought to light their own.
Exactly.
And it's
You can't just say I forgive.
No, that doesn't exist.
It doesn't mean anything just to forgive. Forgiveness is about self-love and respecting yourself. Forgiveness is not about you saying, well, I'm not going to forgive him. I'm not going to let him off the hook.
And for the stupidest things, right?
But you're the one who's on the hook, not them. Because whoever you're mad at, they went on with their lives. You're the one who's holding the garbage that he left behind.
Right there. You're right. They moved forward. You're stuck in it. And people say, no, I'm not. I don't think about it. Yes, you do. You're still rambling. I could tell you didn't let it go. It's one thing to talk about what happened. It's another thing to dwell on it. Exactly. And that means you haven't let it go. You haven't forgiven yourself. It's so true. I watch so many people, and even though they never said I'm sorry or whatever, they're enjoying their life. And here I am bringing mine down. We all had to take a bathroom break. I had a pee. But you talked about wanting to commit suicide. And when, and I've talked to people about this, when I went through my coma, I was in a place which was unexplainable. But when I came through, I couldn't use my hands, couldn't use my legs.
Yeah.
I felt totally worthless. Plus all the insecurities I had from the years before, and there's a plethora of stories there. But I felt ugly. I felt unwanted. I felt unneeded. I felt unloved. Even though I had love from my parents. But, at that time, you're the victim. And I'm glad we sucked at suicide.
Oh, man, we're not good at that.
We're not good at that. That's why I didn't try it again. I'd suck at that, too. But here's the thing is...
If we're going to suck at anything, that's where you suck.
Where was your pivotal moment? Because I suck at that, thank God. But mine was when I was going to do it and I was praying. He works in mysterious ways. And I tell people, and they're like, oh, that's so cliche. But it's not. Because for some reason, Man in the Mirror came on.
Yeah.
And it says, you got to take a look at the man in the mirror. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make that change. And then I started thinking about my kids. I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. They just turned 1 and 3. Who's going to be, besides mom, who's going to be there for them? Who's going to help them? No matter if I was in a wheelchair on oxygen for the rest of my life, because it took years to recover, to walk, and so on and so forth. Even if I was supposed to be in that wheelchair for the rest of my life, even if I was supposed to be on oxygen, I could still be there for them. And today, thank God, I am walking. I am healthy. I mean, so many of us want to give up, and we think suicide is the way out, and it's not. What was your pivotal moment that you realized this is not the way out, this is the way forward?
I think when I died on this beach, the scene of the accident, I died and saw life after death. I think that was for the first 20-some years of my life, I was looking for 3 things: love, warmth, and acceptance. I never got it from anyone, including myself. And so I think when I died and I received that love, I didn't know there was such a love. I didn't know there was such a possibility. I didn't know. There was the three things. It was the love that I got, the warmth, and the acceptance of unconditional as I am.
But was that love there? You just never saw it before?
I'm sure it was there, but I was so busy trying to fit in this world, I didn't realize there was more to me, to be offered to me, than I wasn't receiving it. I was too busy trying to be accepted into a world of ignorance here. I was around people who was making labels and judgments on me, that I was trying to, how do I fit into this label? What do you mean I can't and I won't and I'll never be able to?
People are so good at making labels for
Oh
other
my
people,
gosh,
aren't they?
and they're never
ripped them off.
positive.
No, I ripped them all off.
Me
I'm
too,
like,
I
made my own labels. Leave me alone.
I know, designer labels.
Yeah.
And that, so, but you went through a period where you were overeating too. You
Yes,
were
I
not,
was.
you were not taking care of yourself.
No, I was not.
You know, you went through that. Really was trying to fill up something in you. You know.
Yeah, one addiction after another,
Yeah.
and one addiction replaced another because I was looking for the comfort.
Yeah. But who can comfort us more than if we knew that we gotta comfort ourselves? You cannot love until you truly know what you love yourself. You are a reflection of how you want people to treat you. If you treat yourself as a victim, you will be victimized.
Yeah.
If you treat yourself with love and you teach yourself love, you're showing somebody how you want to be loved. If you treat yourself with respect, same thing. You are showing people how to respect you. You are your t-shirt to who's outside of you.
And you know, it's funny because so many people were like, you went through this challenge, you were insecure, you didn't feel loved, but you always seem so happy.
Oh,
Now,
don't we?
yes, and that's our mask. We hide
Yeah.
behind our mask. And some people, they'll say, I didn't think that person would ever commit suicide. They look so happy. People that commit suicide, sometimes, people that cry suicide are crying for help. The people who don't cry for it are the ones that actually do it.
Yeah, like Twitch.
Yeah, yeah. And people are like, but you had it all. You had it all together. Did people say that to you? But inside, we were always hurting.
But mentally, we were taught from a young age there's something wrong with you and you're trying to fix it.
Yeah.
But you don't know what you're trying to fix because you got tired, you kept hearing the same thing. So sometimes people say it's mental illness or maybe it's this. Maybe I'm just depressed, maybe I'm blue. But the truth of the matter is, until I take the time to look into myself and find out, why am I so worried about what other people think?
Yeah.
Why would I flatter myself to think that anybody is even thinking? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, why do we do this? Because we're always looking for acceptance. And I watched you go through, and overeating is still self-abuse.
I almost died from overeating because
I
it
am
killed
too.
diabetes, everything. It's
Yeah, and look what you did. When I saw you, it wasn't about the weight loss for me with you. It was about
the health.
the health. I was so worried about your health. And to watch you finally grab the bull by the horn and just say, I gotta love myself. And not only that, you set a great example for your boys. You did. You set a great, I'm gonna miss all the food we used to eat, that's for sure.
No, I do miss that.
I know.
My mind still
we
wants
had
it.
good. We still good food, and that. But we all have a chance to grow. I don't want to wear a mask anymore.
No.
I just want to be me. I want my heart to show. I want my light to show. I want to love unconditionally anybody and everybody. I don't care who you are, as long as you're good. Mm-hmm. But I want you to be good to yourself first, because that's where it all starts. I gave up a lot of my family beliefs because it didn't fit true to who I am and to who I am today. I got to create who I want to be. You know, and so, and I get to love. I mean, I love my mom through dementia. I loved her until the day.
Yeah, she just passed away, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. And you've been taking care of your mom for a very long time,
Yeah.
and it's not easy for a caretaker, and you did it by yourself.
Yes, I did.
And that takes a lot of strength, energy,
Yeah.
patience, and most importantly, love.
And I gotta tell you, you don't know this, but when my mom died, I took care of everything, the mass, everything, because she's Catholic, and I wanted to do her Catholic stuff. And I came back to LA. I put a picture up on the mantle, put candles up, all that. And I sat down on the couch and I started bawling and crying. I wasn't crying because my mom died, because I sure heck didn't want her to suffer like that any longer. Sure. I cried because I was so grateful. Grateful to be able to love her in spite of yesteryears. Grateful to have the patience. I was thanking God for the patience He gave me for her, for the understanding of her condition.
For her and your dad.
Yeah, I was thanking Him for the love. Where did all this love come from that I was able to give her when she was criticizing or whatever she may have been doing? I was grateful for being able to be there, because I was flying from California to Ohio every month. And sometimes I didn't have the money, but I still put it on the credit card, and somehow or another a job comes up, and then I was able to pay the bill. So I didn't have to stop being there for my mom. I wanted to be there for her, even if half of the time she didn't know who I was. It didn't make any difference. What was important is that I knew I was there for her and that she wasn't alone, because I look at the people in the facility, nobody comes to visit them, which is uncalled for. Just because somebody doesn't remember who you are today doesn't mean you can't respect the journey that they're on today. And that's what I did. I went on the journey with her and her time. I didn't ask her to be who she was yesteryears, because I really didn't like her from yesterday. No, I'm kidding. I didn't ask her to...
Oh, no, you're not.
No, but it was my crying in that moment, that love that I felt for my heaven, just thanking God for all that He blessed me with, the knowledge and how to be there for her when I didn't go to school for this. It was like I had to say goodbye to my baby. You know, it was a gift, and I loved that moment. It wasn't about my poor mom. It was about thank you, God.
Yeah, and you know, I noticed that with a lot of people who are in a good space, have a great faith base. Now, there's many faiths out there, and ours happens to be God and Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And some people believe in other faiths, and that's great. But as long as you have that faith, that good foundation, that love from somewhere, because we need, it gives us strength. And most people, who else can you turn to? You know, instead of a friend who doesn't understand, in our eyes, there's a bigger God that does understand and does forgive. And I don't care what people say, and I don't care what you all believe, but every time I've turned to Him, He has gifted me with peace and love and great people like you.
And a fabulous wife like Ashley.
And a baby on the way.
A
Baby girl. But I am so grateful for your friendship.
That goes both ways.
And before we wrap it up.
Come on, we got all day.
No, we're just going to say that. But you know, we've been talking to each other.
Yeah.
And hopefully in talking to each other, a lot of people out there have gotten so many great messages. And I hope you got a lot from Kathy. She's a wonderful person. Anything that you would love to tell young women, young men, anybody out there, whether it be hearing loss or some kind of what they call a disability or whatever they call it today, because I keep changing.
The only disability is your attitude.
Or insecurity, or whatever it may be.
You know, the only disability you ever have is your own attitude. You may have everything for yourself physically, but if you're not thinking right for yourself, then you're ending up with a disability. But let me tell you this. I don't believe there's such a thing as a problem in life. I believe there's situations, circumstances, and things that come into your life. The problem for you create the problem. When something negative comes into your life, you look at it, and then you think about, how can I find the solution? Now, you can go to one other person that you trust, and that person, you can find out the solution for this issue. But if you go to 2, 3, 4 other people, that issue will grow its own arms and legs, and now you've created a problem because you gave it life. You don't want to give a negative situation life. You know, somebody would come home, that asshole hit me with his car, and now I got to get my car fixed, with all this anger. Did you bother to look in the mirror to see that you're up on your feet? Did you bother to see that you're still alive? Did you bother to see the goodness that you have? Instead of complaining about what happened, just think about, how do I go forward? Don't stay so far in the past that you're missing the gifts that are being presented to you right now. This is the most precious gift you ever have, your life. You are responsible for it. You get to love, honor, and respect this. You're the one who makes the rules. You're the one who makes the plan. You're the one who is the teacher of those around you. I hope you learn that you got one shot at this incredible gift called life. Please, respect it for what it's intended for.
Wow, great words. And I love what she said is you're responsible, meaning we're responsible for ourselves. And I have loved that Kathy came here to spend a couple days, and I was able, she didn't expect this, to tie her down and just talk like we normally talk. That's what we do all the time. And go to No Limits site, and if you could help, so she can help with some donations, so she can help all the other kids that she so diligently and hardly and loves and works for. I'm not good for asking for money, but
me neither.
You know, but the thing is, it's needed, because if the government can't do it, we all got to chip in. So we're going to give you the site to that. Kathy is working on a book, and I can't wait to read that. It's going to be so powerful. But thanks for joining us in our show today. And it probably, like I said, might be a two-part series, and probably is going to be a two-part series. But we thank you for being on the Giulio Show, and I can't wait to see you again. In the meantime, God bless and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.